What's up? It's BassQuest. Today we're going to go over some bladed jigs that you probably don't have in your tackle box. And that's important because, again, as these bodies of waters that we fish get more and more pressured, it really pays to show the fish something they haven't seen, whether it's a different look, a different vibration, a different size, you name it. And so going back, being creative is what's going to get you a lot more bites in the fall, and that can transition into a lot bigger fish, better limits for you if you're tournament anglers, and just fun in general. So we're pushing into fall transition right now and talking about bladed jigs specifically. I teased this in that front runner video. What do you call it? The front spinner from Picasso, the video that I did a couple days ago. This is going to be in the same playlist for fall transition fishing, power fishing. Anyway, it's going to be linked above here. Some of my favorites here are some JDM baits that you can't get in the US. And so I'm going to start out with those. This is a D-blade. You can't get them in the US. You know, you go to certain fishing shows, sometimes you can get a hold of them, but I want you to see something specific about this bait that a lot of JDM baits have in common that you don't see a lot in the US. Let me see here. I'm going to put this up against a thunder cricket. You see how much bigger the hook is on that thunder cricket there? See, I don't know if you can see that or not. It's a lot bigger hook. It's a lot heavier wire hook, whereas this is a lot more finesse presentation. It's compact, and just the way that runs through the water there, it's got a really small blade on it, and it's different. It's got a real tight action. It really hammers, but it hammers really fast and light. It's got a fast startup speed on it, and it's different than what you're going to see on a bait with a bigger blade, such as a jackhammer or a thunder cricket, or especially when you're going as big as like a jackal break blade right there. So those are something I see. And then also this OSP little bladed jig. This is a very interesting one. So this is basically the stealth blade from Z-Man, but they came out with it first back in 2011, OSP in Japan. And you can see there's a lot of interesting things going on here. Again, compact, smaller hook, and we've got like this creature bait that they give you to put on the back of it. And this is the thing that I'm really a fan of. Again, it's these trailers that do not impede the natural action of the bait, because you really want this thing to hunt. It's similar to a square bill, where if you get a really good chatterbait and it's working properly, as you're ripping it and moving it through, it's actually going to hunt from side to side. That's what gets the big baits. And that's why 1 out of every 10 jackhammers, 3 out of every 10 jackhammers, your pros are going to hold on to. They got boxes and boxes of these things, but they're only going to have a certain few in a box. That those are the ones that you're going to pick up game day, because those are the ones that gets the bites. It's special. But going back to that, so now we're going to push into some of the ones that you can get a hold of in America really easily. Now this is a one that I guarantee you a lot of you guys don't have, but I think is a very unique bait. That is the Advantage Tackle bladed jig. If you're not familiar with Advantage Tackle Company, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up their website, because I think that is important. That's the OSP one. All right, so here we go on Advantage Tackle here. You can see they've got the Jawbreaker is the name of it, but they've got really unique, I don't know if you can see this or not. Let's see if I can go to products. Jawbreaker. Very unique blades on these jigs. I don't know if you can see that. And also their spinner baits. They make some of the most unique spinner baits, very different vibration. And the way these things are stamped out, they've got a texture to them. I'm not sure if it's really coming through in this or not, but you can really see it. Let's see here. We'll swap back. You really see it right there. They got texture on the sides, and then the actual blade is stamped out. In addition to that, they've got this really strong piece of wire. Let's see if I can get this out of the way. Piece of wire that's wrapped on the front instead of one of those little, what do you call it, little clips on there. I do like that. This is something that you can throw with heavy line and some really thick cover, and it's got an absolute gaff of a hook on it. So it's very big blade, very aggressive, and it's just something that your jackhammers, a lot of your Z-Man chatterbaits are not going to be able to pull off this same kind of action there. Again, we're talking about something different here. Another one that I like that's also a JDM product is the Jackal Break Blade. Again, we've got a small weed guard on here. I would just honestly, and so does that D blade, I just delete those. It's a little titanium weed guard. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to cut that thing out. That's going to be one of the first things that I do, because I'm not going to be throwing this chatterbait in an area that I need a weed guard. If I'm going to do that, I've got some other options that we can use for that. So don't need that. But the bigger blade, this thing has, and another thing, not only a bigger blade, but I don't know if you can see this. So if you notice a lot of bladed jigs, you can see how much room that has to oscillate back and forth due to the size of that loop. A lot of your other bladed jigs, they don't nearly do that. They don't have near as much play in there, and so that gives this thing a much harder thump and a lot harder vibration, which I think can be important on getting some of those fish to eat there. Now, these jigs like here with the bigger blades and stuff, and even the jackhammer, you know, what I would consider more aggressive bladed jigs, a lot of times I will go with a trailer that will complement that. So since it's got a bigger blade, since it's throwing more water, you can get away with throwing like a Kitech on there. A lot of times I'll trim the tail on the Kitech just a little bit so that it's not kicking quite as hard, so you have to pay attention to that. But another one is, you can see this is a zoom speed crawl. We're missing a pincher on it. This is on the Thunder Cricket, and that is a dynamite way to rig a crawl trailer on there if you want a bluegill imitation. Rig it vertically and rig a smaller crawl. It doesn't have to, you don't want to put like a full rage crawl in there. It's going to overpower it. But like a zoom speed crawl, ultraviolet speed crawl, one of the Guggen, one of the small crawls from the Guggen Bait Company, one of the junior rage crawls, that right there is a dynamite combination. And then just smaller creature baits that don't have as much action, but they have the flow on there, is a good option as well. But I'll tell you my all-time favorite trailers that I'm going to run on a lot of my chatterbaits when I pick them up. And my two favorites are, one, the Hog Farmer Spunk Shad, and two, that's a Strike King Cutter Worm, which is basically you're going to be your swimming worm. And the reason those are so good is because everything that comes through that blade is translated in secondary action to the tail of that bait. It doesn't overpower any of that. It doesn't change that. The blade does all the work. It allows the bait to hunt properly. It allows the bait not to keel to the side, so you can actually burn it faster. And another thing that it also allows is for you to fish these baits deeper, because I think that's something really key. A lot of guys are fishing, you know, big blades. They're fishing big trailers, and they're having to fish really shallow. But if you're in grass, or maybe you're even on like a shell bed that's in 12, 15 foot, one of these baits with a smaller blade on it, a little bit more weight, and a small trailer can get down there and stay down there with a good retrieve and get you those bites. That's super key. Now I'm going to pop into here. I'm going to give y'all a little bonus one here. A little bonus tip. Popping into my box. Box of secret. Box of secret. What do we got? Alright. Here's one for you. I'm going to pull out a random jig here. This is a MGC Custom Tackle jig. Let's see what I do with that blade. Well, I dropped it, guys. Give me one more second here. Alright. My motor skills are not as good as they once were. This is from a company called Queen's Tackle. They make some really cool stuff. They make tungsten shaky heads that rattle. They make football jigs that rattle. I actually have an internal rattle in them. But one of the coolest things that they make is this little blade. And it's got a little clip, a metal clip here. It's actually a really strong connection. And you can stick it on your standard jig, especially if it's got a vertical line tie. I prefer a swim jig because a lot of the swim jigs have a vertical line tie. You can clip this directly on there, and you've got yourself a little makeshift chatterbait. And this is what I use when I'm fishing heavy cover with a bladed jig. When I do want to put the big trailer on there, I want the big presentation. When I got that bigger weed guard on there, I'm going to jump up to bigger line, bigger rods, and absolutely smash these things. Now for the rod and reel combinations, most of the time when I'm fishing a chatterbait, I'm throwing it on 30-pound braid, or I'm throwing it on like 14, 15-pound test sunline. And I love that combination. Maybe a 7.3 medium heavy. I like a little bit longer rod, and I like one that's got a little bit of a parabolic bend. I do not like glass rods for this. A lot of guys are in love with glass rods. We can talk about that in another video. But if you'll go down a power with a graphite rod, you can figure out, or you can feel everything that's happening to that bait. That's super important, because if you can't feel what's going on, especially if you're fishing something that's not just grass, or you're fishing certain grass that, say, there's some of it is spongy and some of it's thick that you can rip out of, you want to be able to feel all that. Subtle bites, differences in the cover that's on the bottom there, and all those things translate into having good graphite rods. And if you'll just go down a power on that thing and maybe go, to a different action, a little bit lower action, moderate action, something like that, you're going to get the exact same effect of letting the fish eat the bait while also getting everything that you want as far as feel as well. I think I'm going to stop it right there, because I can go on and on about this all day. If you guys want to see some specific videos on these individual bladed jigs, let me know. I hope this was helpful to you, and I hope you catch some giant fish this fall. Stay tuned to the channel. I'm going to be posting as much as I can. If you like it, subscribe to the channel, share it to all your friends. And I hope this week catches you out on the, or finds you out on the water, and I'll catch you there.